Hey, my name's Ed Winslow, and I'm the founder of a program called One Page Case Studies. And One Page Case Studies solve a huge problem, and especially in local markets. The problem is that every website basically looks the same. So you pay for, you're implementing a SEO strategy, or you're paying for paid ads, and you're not getting the conversion. And even if you do get the conversion, even if you do get a lead, frequently the leads come in and they're like low quality leads. You know what I call low quality leads, like on a scale of like 1 to 10, 10 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. You get a lead at like a 1 or a 2. I'm sure you've gotten them. I get them where people just don't believe you, and they don't trust you. They don't see the difference between you and anybody else. You all look the same. We all look like commodities. But there is a solution, and it's what I call the one-page case study system. And let me show you an example. So over here, I'm going to take you over here for a second. And here are two articles that, fortunately my wife saved. Otherwise, I would never have saved them. But these are two articles that that I wrote, that I submitted to the New York Times many years ago. This one was in 92. This one was in 93. And back then I was working as a real estate broker in New York City. I was always on the marketing side. And so, back when I was just getting started, I sold this property. Nobody knew who I was. I was competing with zillions. There are more real estate brokers in New York City than there are in the world. Seriously, there's a lot. And you've got a lot of brand name firms. You probably have heard of some of the firms. You got Sotheby's and Douglas Elliman, and you've got Cushman and Wakefield, and you got all these big brand name firms. So how I was able to get this piece of business. I'm marketing the property for sale. I sell the property. I get this nice commission in my pocket. Now I'm not broke. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? How do I get business? Do I go back to my same old thing? We defined my little local territory. I make cold calls. I send direct mail. I'm licking envelopes. I'm getting finger cuts. I'm getting sick from the glue on the envelopes. I'm getting paper cuts, sending this stuff out in the mail to the same people over and over. And that worked. But it was like trudging through, deep swamp. And so I sell this building, and I came up with this idea. I don't know where the idea came from, because I didn't know anybody at any publication, let alone the New York Times. I didn't even know what a case study was. So what I did was I went back to the office and I jotted down a few key points about the building. Where it was located, some human interest things about the history of the building, stuff like that. And when I put it all down on a little piece of paper and all these little, like pieces, almost like a jigsaw puzzle, I saw this story start to emerge. And I'm like, oh, this is sort of interesting. So I wrote it up. I mean, the whole process took me probably less than 30 minutes because I didn't have time. I didn't know what I was doing. And I typed it, got it typed out, put it in an 8x11 envelope because I figured, well, maybe that would get somebody's attention. Put a picture of the building in there, and I sent it to the New York Times. And lo and behold, a month later, they published the darn thing on the front page of the Sunday New York Times. So why did they do that? Well, there's a reason why. And it converted. And it was an interesting story as to why it worked and how it worked and how I became a somebody from a nobody. And people remembered me. They knew me. They trusted me. They referred me. I was getting referrals from people I never even heard of, recommended by people I've never met. And that's how this whole thing works. So fast forward it, I kept doing this every year, over and over and over. And then businesses came to me and they asked me for help. Real estate agencies asked me for help. And it just became part of a business. And so, fast forwarded, I turned it into, I now have an internet marketing agency, and I've applied it online, and it works wonderfully online, better online than it did even back then. And so what I did was I turned this into what I call the one-page case study. And what I did was I broke it down. I've broken down the training because I've taught this many, many times in many agencies, many companies. And I broke it down into what I call the 4 Ps, and that's the positioning, the promotion, the profits, and the practice. This one right here, we start here with how do you create the one-page case study? How do you do it really fast? Now, if you do it fast, you can also use artificial intelligence as part of this, but it's how do we use the words? How do we lay it out? What's the methodology that converts? And so there's a formula that I put together. And what it does is it helps overcome this guy right here, which is called the doubter. The doubter is who you really have to understand, because until you understand who you're trying to sell to and what they're going through and what their journey is, how do you sell to them? You don't know what stage they're at. If you try and sell and force something on somebody when they're not ready to buy, they're going to run away and they're never going to come back. They're going to just go buy from somebody else. So what the case studies have done for me and for hundreds of my clients is they do what I call pre-selling. So when you get a lead from them, they already trust you. And that's what this is all about. That's what this program's all about. It's all about how to create proof, how to create that trust. And there's an ongoing formula so that when you create these little one-pagers and you put them on your website, they actually become income-producing assets. They solve the biggest problem. They convert at such a high level. The word of mouth is one of the biggest benefits. That's the magic of this whole thing, is how the word of mouth works with these things. So anyway, so that's the story. I get into a lot of things. You can see my wall is filled with all kinds of little things that you can add into these case studies. Like things that you want to know is like, what is the difference between a case study and reviews? Or what is brand equity? Or what are picture words? And what are identification factors? All kinds of little things that anybody can learn. And I can teach it to you real quick. So join my workshop. I've got a free class, and that's where I start to introduce the entire program. And I would highly recommend it, because if you're looking for a solution to get business, this is what converts. This is not about, though we do talk about traffic and all that kind of stuff, this is all about conversion. So hope you'll join us. Thanks.